Welcome to On the Vineyard, a 10-minute weekly wrap-up of news from the Vineyard Gazette Media Group on Martha's Vineyard. I'm publisher Monica Brady-Meyerov. We're so glad you're here. On the Vineyard is sponsored by Martha's Vineyard Bank. The red, white, and blue bunting is out along Main Street in Edgartown in preparation for July 4th weekend. And so is the a cappella group Vineyard Sound.
Goodbye, my chappy isle. Goodbye, my chappy isle. Farewell, my chappy island babe.
The 4th of July parade and fireworks in Edgartown are on Saturday. There are also smaller parades in Aquinnah and Oak Bluffs. And as you know, it's not just any 4th of July. It's the nation's 250th birthday. What does that mean in vineyard history?
There's a common misconception that because the vineyard is separated from the mainland, we were somehow neutral, but at least for the beginning of the war, that was definitely not the case.
We'll hear more on that story in a moment. The Carnegie Heritage Center has a special 250 exhibit. Outside the building is a life-size cutout of people dressed in colonial wear. Denise, visiting from Hawaii, was taking a picture of her family with their faces inserted into the wooden holes.
We're looking at 250 years of independence. It's the Vineyard Preservation Trust, and they're celebrating 250 years of independence. There's a beautiful display in there that's free to everyone to look at that talks about our history.
That's the sound of the historic press in the Vineyard Gazette offices in Edgartown printing the paper. That means it's time to go upstairs to the newsroom and check in with Bill Evell, the editor-in-chief, and the reporters on this week's news.
Hello, everyone, and happy July 4th weekend. It is, of course, the 250th anniversary of 1776, so we decided to check in on the island, what it was like 250 years ago, and how the island interacted with the Revolution. Emma Kilbride went for a deep dive. Emma?
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, the vineyard was absolutely involved in the American Revolution, specifically for the first several years of the war. Islanders had opinions. They made displays publicly of those opinions. And there's a common misconception that because the vineyard is separated from the mainland, we were somehow neutral. But at least for the beginning of the war, that was definitely not the case.
Yeah, one of the many interesting things I found about your piece was, you think back 250 years ago and you think, okay, the island must have just been a completely separate thing because you don't come and go. But really, the ocean was a main thoroughfare. So we were really sort of on the superhighway, kind of.
Yes, you're right. I spoke with Bo Van Riper, a historian at the Martha's Vineyard Museum, who told me that it was both kind of a informational and goods highway and a barrier between the island and the mainland, which created this kind of interesting complexity because when people came through, when ships came through, they would come by the island, and so that created an exchange of goods and information. But there was also that kind of barrier between us and the mainland that was sometimes a protective barrier when the war was going on.
Yeah, and as you reported, it, like many places, I'm sure back then, there were some British loyalists and then some revolutionaries. We had all that same mix here on this small place.
Yeah, there was a good mix, and there were people at both ends of the spectrum, and a lot of people, according to historians that I spoke to, who floated somewhere in the middle. But a lot of the documented moments that stick out maybe in vineyarders' minds about the revolution were rebels who were making it known that they wanted independence from Britain.
Which then led to one of our big historical moments, Grey's Raid, when we were actually raided by the British and told, you better stop.
Yes, that is precisely what happened. We were giving Britain a hard time, and we were stealing their ships and their goods and their men, and they got tired of it. And so General Grey came, he brought 4,000 troops, this was in 1778, and stole most of the sheep that were on the island at the time, which was the main economic output, and stole and wrecked a whole bunch of other things. And then after that is when the vineyard as an island really kind of took a backseat in the Revolution.
And you also talked to Brad Lopes, among many other people, but he's the education director at the Aquinnah Cultural Center, to find out what it was like for the Wampanoag people back then.
Yeah, so separate from the Revolution, there were also a lot of other social factors at play on the vineyard 250 years ago. And the Wampanoag tribe was trying to find autonomy and secure land rights amid this encroaching colonization by British settlers that was happening here on the island.
A lot of that came down to actually like this idea of owning the land. That wasn't a Wampanoag ideal.
Yeah, so what Brad Lopes told me is when the British came to America, they were very kind of enamored with this idea from John Locke about private property ownership. And that was a big impetus for coming here in the first place. But in the Wampanoag community, that is just not how they ever viewed the land, he told me. And the Wampanoag people view land as a public resource and not something that is owned in such a strict way. And so that, to say the least, created a lot of tension. In addition to the oppression that the Wampanoag population was facing, there was also a slaveholding economy on the island in 1776, and there is extensive documentation of that. In fact, the first and only vineyarder killed in the Revolution on vineyard shores was Sharper Michael, who was a man born into enslavement in Kilmark.
Well, this is just a little bit of a taste of what you can see in Emma's article. It's online and in print. You should definitely check it out. We're going to stay with Emma to just show the breadth of what she worked on this week, because the other deep dive was on hot dogs, which are definitely having their moment on the vineyard and off island too. So Emma, just how deep did you go with these hot dogs?
Oh, Bill, I had so many hot dogs. I am going to have to abstain from eating hot dogs for a while at this point, but all of the hot dogs that I tried on the island were very delicious and all very creative.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing just how inventive they've become. Pocket dogs, which it's at the Ritz, and it's also at the Edgartown Market. I mean, the toppings are just everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, Pocket Dogs has a peanut butter and jelly dog. They have a dog that has hot Cheetos on it, which is apparently all the rage now. I tried from Goldie's Rotisserie, which is a food truck that you might be familiar with from around the island. They have a French onion dog that is very involved and very delicious. So yeah, people are they're really getting into the hot dog spirit out there, Bill.
Yeah, I was really drawn to the late night Tower of Dogs at Alchemy, but they don't start till like 10 o'clock, right?
So yeah, Alchemy since 2024 has had a late night menu, so they open after 10, and they have all kinds of bar snacks and stuff like that. But if you are at Alchemy after 10, you can get a giant tower of hot dogs with french fries and all kinds of condiments. And apparently this is such a big hit that when they took it off the menu, people were upset about it. So.
I totally get it, based on the pictures and based on you coming back and telling us about it. All right, Emma, thanks so much, and I hope that inspires everybody for cooking out this weekend or going out. Take care, have a great holiday, and be safe.
You can read more on these stories and all the news for free at vineyardgazette.com. If you watch the 4th of July parade in Edgartown, look out for me in the Vineyard Gazette's 1955 red truck. We'll be tossing out folded newspaper hats. People love these hats, and we can't make enough of them to satisfy the demand on the 4th. Every year we make a new one with a new date. We try to make as many as people want, but it's difficult. We print thousands in a special print run, and then for weeks leading up to the parade, we fold them into what are called pressman hats. So look out for yours during the parade. The island has a lot going on for the 250th anniversary. Look in the Gazette calendar for more events. So many families go back generations, and there's an exhibit at the Martha's Vineyard Museum that explores that history through the eyes of Menemsha artist Colin Rule. Rule's grandfather was Jimmy Morgan, a Menemsha fisherman and a folk artist. In this archival clip, he talks about his family's heritage with Lindsay Lee.
My father's family was from the island, going back way back to the west. And my mother was from Scotland. She came over in the 20s, early 20s. I'm related to the Vincents and the Fishers, some of the West, but I'm related to a lot of the old families. She lived to be in her 80s. Yeah, they lived in the house right next to us down in Menemsha.
The exhibit explores generational change, coastal identity, and the evolving realities of life in a shifting economy, and it's up until mid-August. Thank you to the Martha's Vineyard Museum for this archival audio. Our theme music is from island composer and musician Michael Hayden. If you like the show, please follow us so you won't miss an episode, and tell a friend who loves the Vineyard. Thanks to our sponsor, Martha's Vineyard Bank, a community bank whose branches are all ready for the 4th of July with red, white, and blue bunting, providing personalized guidance and committed to understanding the needs of the community. Learn more at mvbank.com. I'm Monica Brady-Myrov. Thanks for joining us on The Vineyard. Talk to you next week.